Hello. I'd like to call the April 11th, 2023 regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of the Village of Los Ranchos to order at 7 o'clock. So we will begin with roll call. So Commissioner Gay is here. Commissioner Christensen. Commissioner Michelson.
Here.
Commissioner Smith. Nope. Commissioner Barrow.
Here.
And Commissioner Homan.
Here.
Let the record reflect that a quorum is present for the meeting. So we move on to approval of the agenda. Director Rubin, are there any changes to the agenda?
Chair, there are no changes to the agenda at this time.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move approval.
Commissioner Homan moved to approve, and Commissioner Barrow moved second. Roll call vote. Commissioner Gay, yes. Aye. 10-4. Commissioner Christensen. Yes. Commissioner Michelson.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, not here. Commissioner Barrow.
Here, sorry.
And Commissioner Homan.
Yes.
Okay, let the motion carries unanimously. So now we get to the public comment period. I'm winging it because I didn't have my big print tonight, so bear with me. Residents may address the Planning and Zoning Commission and comment on any issues, problems, or successes on topics that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. Audience members will be given the opportunity to comment on agenda items as they come up. Speakers must register with village staff prior to the beginning of the meeting. I have a list of those who signed up to speak, so please come up to the podium as your name is called. Which one is which? So agenda item sign up or go through a full list of names, call up those who signed to speak. So the public comment sign up, which would be any comment about an item that is not on the agenda. We have Nancy Robinson. Would you come up, please? Okay. And John Edwards. John, would you, pardon? Okay. Our mistake. So let's see, the public comment period, we have no one coming up to speak. That made it easy. So we move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of those items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Are there any corrections or comments from the commissioners on the approval of the minutes, the February 14 regular meeting minutes? Are there any comments or corrections from commissioners?
Mr. Chair, as I was not present for the last meeting, the February 14th meeting, I will abstain from voting.
Okay. Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the minutes of the February 14th, 2023 regular meeting.
Commissioner Michelson approved it. Do I have a second? Commissioner Barrow seconded it. We'll have a roll call vote. Commissioner Gay, yes. Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Michelson,
yes.
Commissioner Smith, not here. Commissioner Barrow has recused herself, and Commissioner Homan, sorry.
No, the other way around.
Yes, the other way around.
Oh.
Barrows can vote.
I get it. Okay, and Commissioner Homan
Abstention.
abstained. The motion carries unanimously. So now we get to the public hearing and applications portion. Will all those who would be willing to, who will be speaking before the commission tonight, please stand up to be sworn in? And we do not have a village council here tonight, so as our ordinance allow, Director Maida Rubin is going to swear everybody in.
All right, for those providing testimony tonight, please raise your right hand. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And for myself, I also, for all of the items I will be providing testimony on, will be speaking the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Okay. Thank you, Director Rubin. And so we start with item A, homeowner occupation number 0618, a request by M.G. McCullough for a home occupation permit and license for acupuncture sessions and telehealth is authorized under 9.2.25 D4 home occupation permit in the A1 zone in the Guadalupe Trail character area. The property is listed at 532 Westgate Lane Northwest and is legally known as Lot 1A, Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, map number 27, also known as WLYPOR 119.71 FTLT1. The property contains 0.907 acres more or less. Are there any commissioners who will recuse themselves from this item? Let's see, Director Rubin, may we have the planning report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the item before you is a request for a home occupation permit and license for acupuncture sessions and telehealth at the applicant's residence. The applicant desires to operate a business engaging in hour-long acupuncture sessions and telehealth not to exceed 20 hours per week at their residence, compliant with the permissive uses of the zone and the requirements for approval. This is typically a director approval unless there are adverse comments. And in this case, we did receive one adverse comment, so it is before you tonight. The department recommends approval of HO0618 for a home occupation permit and license for acupuncture and telehealth as authorized under 9.2.25 D4 for home occupation permit in the A1 zone in the Guadalupe Trail character area with the findings and conditions as listed in your planning report. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for the commission from the commission for Director Rubin? None. Is the applicant present? State your name and address. Would you come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record?
Hi, I'm M.G. McCullough. My address is 532 Westgate Lane Northwest.
Okay, would you like to speak about your application?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think we have you have slides for me? Yeah, I'll put those up in just a Okay, next, please. I wanted to introduce myself for the purpose of having you understand that I understand rural life. I'm from Cameron, South Carolina, which makes Los Ranchos look like New York City. And truly, it's from a farm town, a blinking stoplight. We always had a ginormous garden in the back. And Jason, my husband sitting in the back, is from Naperville, Illinois. So neither one of us grew up here, and we've chosen to live here because we love it. And we moved away, went to California, went to South Carolina, and then we were chomping at the bit to get back. We've been reading homesteading and urban farming books for years now, and we're so excited, so much so that we did not see this house before we bought it in person. And all I'm trying to say is we could live anywhere in the country, and we chose to live here, and specifically in Los Ranchos, because we used to live in Nob Hill before that. So the whole reason that we moved to where we live now is for the rural life, and so we can enjoy that. So it is not my intention to interrupt that in any way, shape, or form. So moving on, we actually had Fergus Whitney help us with our front yard. Can I have the next slide, please? So we ripped up maybe a third of our front yard to put the garden in because of exactly what I was trying to say. And we live across the street from Ms. Brownsville, who has opposed my home business license. And basically, I'm just trying to set the stage for how much I love where I live. I love smelling horses when I wake up in the morning. I like hearing them, the whole thing. Okay, so I really appreciate that you have this process so that we don't go off the rails and not stay a rural area. However, I feel like this opposition is very erroneous and just frankly false. So I wanted to get into that in the next slide, please. One of the complaints was that the road is too narrow for 2 cars to pass, and that's just not true. And so as I was driving down the road one day, this is Mrs. Brownsville's employee who comes at least twice a day, back and forth to help her with her horses. And as you can see, there is plenty of room. My husband and I also often pass each other on the road, doing school drop-off and that kind of thing. And we're able to just stop in the road and talk to each other with no problem. So that's just not the case. Could I have the next slide, please, too? The other aspect of the opposition was that it would create dust on the road, which is obviously true. It's non-negotiable. I mean, the road is gravel, so it's clearly going to produce dust. But generally speaking, if you drive 20 miles an hour or less, that doesn't happen. And the only person that speeds down this road is Mrs. Brownsville. So I think we have an issue of projection here, not really an actual issue. None of our other neighbors drive fast on this road, and I've been seeing patients out of my home already. Nobody's driving fast. Our neighbors haven't complained. So I just think that that's not really true. And you can see the red dot is where Mrs. Brownsville lives, and across that diagonally is our property. So if you're creating dust, the only person you're bothering is everyone else on the road. So it's actually not bothering her one way or the other. What else did I want to say here? I think I've set the stage fairly well for you to understand that I understand the agricultural and rural nature. I really dislike disingenuine people. And so this really kind of rubs me the wrong way that you're having to listen to me tonight, and other people, my sweet neighbors, are having to come out to speak on my behalf because it's just unnecessary. We absolutely care about agriculture. We care about animals, which is why we don't have a flashing red light to deter coyotes, which my neighbor, Mrs. Brownsville, does. She's blocking the ditch access as well. I have to literally climb through the fence to open the ditch. All these things, I think, fairly clearly demonstrate that there is not a concern for agriculture on our street from this person. But that's the opposition. So I just wanted to be clear that not only do we appreciate the agricultural nature of our neighborhood, but also As mentioned before, I only see one patient per hour. I'm not a busy, like I don't see 5 people an hour. This is not your standard like healthcare setting where you have 8 minutes with your doctor. We're blocked out for a whole hour. So that's not a whole lot of people coming and going. So I don't see any disturbance to the neighborhood. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, this is my treatment room. So literally a room right at the back of my property. People park by our carport, come in the back door, and this is treatment.
Let me know
If you
when you're
need some
done.
acupuncture. I mean, I should take this opportunity to advertise my services, right?
Cost extra.
Anything for me?
Do any commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Nope. I have a list of those who sign up to speak on this item. Please come up to the podium as your name is called. Mr. Bob Kears.
I'm Bob Kears, 7037 Guadalupe Trail. I came to speak in favor of this resolution. A couple of things. I own half of that little dirt road. Would you believe it's deeded separate, 15 feet wide? That's why, and then the people on the north side own the other half. You would not know how many times I've asked the person who complained about this to slow down and have been repeatedly told 27 miles an hour is plenty slow enough on that dirt street. She raises racehorses and apparently considers Westgate part of that tract. Please disregard her frivolous complaint.
Thank you, Mr. Kears. And next is Ms. Michelson. You already you were signed up to speak. I don't assume you want to speak again, do you? I'm sorry, what? You were signed up to speak again. And so next would be Jason Tang. Could you state your full name and your address, please?
Jason Tang, 532 Westgate Lane.
Thank you.
I just wanted to pass along several observations of MG and her practice of Chinese medicine. Are you getting this now? Is this a little better? All right, perfect. MG, in the time that I've known her and her practice in Chinese medicine, has shown a commitment and a dedication to improving the quality of her practice. And in that regard, she has really committed to seeing her patients for the entire hour. And I think that most of us, when we think of our experience with our MD, we sit around for an hour in a waiting room, we sit around for a large amount of time waiting for the actual MD, only to see the MD for 15 minutes. And you'll sit there and you'll have 4 other people in your appointment for that hour time slot. And so what that really kind of results in here is much fewer people than would be coming to see Dr. McCullough as compared to your typical experience with an MD. The second observation that I'd like to make is I've seen a spirit of continuous improvement in her study of the medicine, and I've seen her spend 6 hours a week getting better, getting knowledgeable, getting educated in all the ways that enable her to deliver just really, really quality medical services to the people who need it. And finally, the third observation that I'd like to make is that she has a spirit of integrity and that and what that means to me is that she will practice in the way that she says she will. And so earlier you heard her talk about her intention of how many people she intends to take on, and what kind of volume that would then mean. And I think that spirit of integrity tells me, from what I've seen, that she will follow through on what she says. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tang. Are there any other speakers in favor of this? We have 2 people out there that weren't signed up. Well, no, this is his name, JT, all the way over here. But that's fine, we can certainly do that. Would you like to come up now and state your name and were you sworn in? Okay.
Howdy, my name is John Edward and I live at 16 Applewood Lane. MG's house backs up to my house. Just close enough to borrow my iron the other night. And of course I had her coffee cup for about a week. So, we're all neighbors and we want to prosper, we want to do well. And economically, at the end of the day, if we're not taking care of things financially, we can't take care of our property and our community. And I think this is a reflection of MG trying to take care of things in a business and financial sense. I've had acupuncture once, and I've had massage therapy. And in all the places I've gone, I can't say that any place I've gone to, except for one time in the last 40 years, has been other than a home. And I don't think that this is any different than that. I did never arrive at a home with a lot of cars there. I did never leave with a lot of cars there. If a practitioner is doing a good job, they don't pack in a lot of different people. They've been a welcome part of the community. They've upgraded the home, which is already nice to start with. And I will say that when I took my planning classes back in college, the people who do speed the most are those people who usually live in that neighborhood or on that street. And when guests come, they're usually more cautious because they're not familiar with the setting. And they usually drive slower and more cautiously. And a client of mine moved down here and he says, I wish I would have moved down here a long time ago. He says, as soon as I get here, I start to relax and I find myself driving slower. But to that extent, her property, I've been inside the home, is not set up such that she has a large waiting room or anything to that effect. And if there is a provision within the law that there's a 20-hour maximum, I would feel comfortable in that regard as well. As far as Bob and I go, I think we're the 2 longest living residences in that immediate vicinity.
All right, we get it.
Oh, yeah, Reg Woodard. Yeah. Yeah. And he's not opposing it. I think he's in favor of this. And I think that, hey, we're allowed to have our opinions, but I think that there's more people in favor of it than against. And I would urge you to approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. And the other speaker would be Nancy Robinson. Is that correct?
Not for this particular item.
All right, well. I know, I was trying to figure out who was signed up by the roll sheet. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't sign up to speak because I had sent in an email regarding how I see this. I am one of the neighbors.
Come up, please. Yeah, if you want to come up to speak, are you going to speak in favor of this or in?
In favor.
Okay, good timing.
Reg Woodard couldn't be here tonight, but he is represented. I'm his wife.
State your name and address, please. Full
Jessica
name.
Woodard, 528 Westgate Lane. And Reg did grow up in that house, and we're very happy to be back in his home that he grew up in. We have welcomed MG and Jason as neighbors and have found them to be just totally improving everything about what they touch in terms of the neighborhood. We've talked about what kind of work that she would do, the people that would come, how she would instruct them in terms of driving, and how important that is. What I did write in terms of the written thing that I sent in was that it's perfectly simple for two cars to pass each other. We all drive slowly that live on that street, except what you've heard already. And I think that this would be a great value to the neighborhood, as MG and Jason are, just period.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that has like to come up to speak in favor of this application? Yes, sir. Could you state your full name and address, please?
Yes, hi, I'm Jim Sands, and I'm on 6913 Guadalupe Trail, which is probably a quarter of a mile south on the ditch from MG and Jason. I have a dog, his name is Duke. He's an English cream lab, and he and I, for years, have been walking down Guadalupe, and then we go down Westgate Lane, and then we cut back on the ditch. And Duke likes to walk down the middle of the road, and so he couldn't be here tonight. He wanted to come, but I said it wasn't appropriate. But I told him that I would speak in his favor, and we walked down the middle, and I've never seen any traffic on that road, to be honest with you. We've never encountered hardly any other traffic, so I was kind of surprised someone would say that would be excessive traffic, because Duke and I would probably be smushed otherwise if it was excessive. Anyway, I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you for listening, and hope you vote in favor of MG and Jason. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone out there who's signed up to speak in opposition of this applicant? Go ahead.
Did you receive the email comments?
So no one in opposition out there. Kiko, do we have anybody signed up who is in, or online who is in opposition? No. To speak, okay. So would the applicant like to respond to any of these comments? Are there any further comments from the commission? No? Okay. The floor is now closed for comments. Is there a motion to recommend approval for HO 0618? I would make a motion to approve HO 618.
Okay, I will second.
There you go. Commissioner Gay approved it. Commissioner Barrow seconded it. Roll call vote. Commissioner Gay, yes. Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Michelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, not here. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Homan.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. Let the record show that public hearing item 4A, the request by MG McCulloch for a home occupation permit and license is formally closed. Congratulations. We move on to B, B 23-01, a request by Carlo Vendigna for a variance from 9.2.7 H2, requiring that no solid wall or fence located within the rear or side setback area shall exceed 6 feet in height. The property is zoned A1 and is located at 6905 Guadalupe Trail Northwest in the Guadalupe Trail character area. The property is legally known as Lot 2A-2R, plat of lots 2A-1R and 2A-2R, lands of Randall Davis. The property contains 2.0283 acres more or less. Are there any commissioners who will recuse themselves from this item? No. Okay, for the record, I was Commissioner Gay. I visited the site to look over what the complaint and about the conservancy. And as I was staring into this lady's backyard, she came out and asked me who I was, and I had no other choice but to introduce myself, told her who I was and why I was there. We had no other discussions about anything on the agenda. I told her specifically that I could not talk about him and would not. But there you go, it's out there. So. And I would have asked who I was too if I had seen me. Somebody laughed. Okay. Director Rubin, may we have the planning report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The request before you is for a variance to the requirement that no solid wall or fence located within the rear or side setback area shall exceed 6 feet in height in the A1 zone. The property abuts the Hale Lateral, for some background, on the south side. In response to flooding issues, the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, MRGCD, recently raised the height of the Hale Lateral's right-of-way on the south side of Pueblo Solano Road Northwest. According to the applicant's justification letter, this elevation change has created a privacy and security issue for their property. The applicant is requesting to increase the existing 6-foot wall height by 40 inches, 4 additional 10-inch cinder blocks. In this case, staff finds that hardship criteria 1 and 5 are met in this case. Staff finds that the change in physical characteristics of the Hale Lateral prompting this request were created by governmental action and were not created by any action of the applicant. For number 5, staff finds that other relevant factors exist that, when taken into account, indicate that granting the variance is substantially justifiable, giving proper weight to the interests of the property owner, the public interest in protecting and fostering the character of the vicinity and the village, and the intent and purpose of the master plan and zone code. Safety and privacy are contemplated in the master plan for properties abutting publicly accessible ditch facilities. And there's also a swimming pool in the backyard, and some of the safety concerns center around potentially children being able to access that pool in an unsafe manner from the ditch. The department recommends approval of V2301 with the findings and conditions listed in your report. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Any commissioners have questions for Director Rubin about her report? Okay, is the applicant present? Would you like to come up and speak about your application? So please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Carla Vindegna, and my property is at 6905 Guadalupe Trail Northwest.
Okay, would you like to speak about your application?
Sure. So I live just adjacent to the irrigation ditch, which is also a pedestrian ditch. And so there's a lot of people who walk the ditch as well as the people who need to irrigate that. And so there was a serious flooding problem that had been going on, and the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy came in to rectify that. And while doing so, and they did a great job, and they needed to do what they needed to do to make it work for everybody, but in doing so, they raised the ditch significantly. particularly on my property where they had to put a pipe that's underground, that they couldn't lower the ditch like they could do on the north side of the Hale lateral ditch. And so what that has created is several issues. One is that people who are walking on the ditch, you can see them from the waist up and they can see into my house. And so there's privacy issues, there's safety issues, because I do have a pool. And I do know that a lot of kids do walk that ditch, and they can easily see that now I have a pool, nobody could see that. And the concerns of safety too is an issue for me as well. So, and the privacy, the enjoyment of I have a beautiful backyard. And everybody that walks the ditch says, "Oh my gosh," and they wave to me, and I'm like, "Oh no, please don't." But anyway, I really would like to raise the wall, and I would spend a lot of money doing that to make it conform to the village, requirements and to the existing wall that's already there. And it's quite significant, so it would be a lengthy, expensive project. So I'm asking if you would please let me raise my wall so I could feel a little bit more safe in my home. Thank you.
Okay, do any commissioners have any questions for Mrs. Benigno?
I have just a comment. When I was initially just reading the narrative, it seemed excessive that you were considering 4 blocks.
Yes.
But upon seeing the pictures and the significant amount of dirt and, as you said, the pipe that was underneath it, that the Conservancy raised that, I can certainly see where it would be needed. In the past, I know when others have come before, not necessarily the P&Z, but when I sat on the Board of Trustees, there was usually a concern about the fire department needing access, but clearly the fire department couldn't get back that direction anyhow with a fire truck
Right.
to access it, so I understand why that wasn't an issue in this case.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions for the applicant? Well, I had a similar, I read the application and I just couldn't believe that we could need a 9-foot fence in the village of Los Ranchos until I went to your ditch and peered into your backyard where you and I met, and it's
Yes.
very quickly
and if I had
obvious.
thought you were a robber, I probably would have not approached you in that way.
Usually, that's not uncommon. But I too had the same reaction, and I really needed to go out to the site to see it, and I do appreciate your
Thank you.
efforts. So. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, I have a list of those who signed up to speak on this item. Please come up to the podium as your name is called. We only have one speaker that signed up to speak. His name is Jason Katsuga from Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District. And he is going to come up and speak in favor of this application.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jason Kasuga. I'm the CEO and Chief Engineer for the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District. And this is one of the rare times I get up and talk and don't talk about water. So
we're going to ask you that later.
So I think it's worthwhile for me explaining why a pipe is there. In this instance, as Ms. Bendigna mentioned, that along this community there's a history of overtopping, and that just comes by, one, it's a mix between urban and ag, right? We have homes that live right up close to the ditch. This wasn't a wide right-of-way to begin with, and people enjoy walking on it. It's one of the best benefits of living in the valley is to walk out and be able to walk along the ditch banks, right? But that beats them down, and they require maintenance at times. And this ditch has gone a long time without it. There was a lot of I'm sorry to say, trees there that we had to take out even just to be able to get in there and do this right. And where you find this piece of property, where Ms. Vendegna and I think Mr. Sands' property is it was just really narrow. And there's no way that we could achieve the elevation that we needed while protecting the properties and trying to achieve the goal of when irrigators are irrigating and if a mistake is made, it would always overtop. And in this instance, I think we achieve the goal of probably not eliminating the ability for the ditch to overtop, but we make it less likely and there's more room for a miscommunication or something like that. So that's why the pipe is in the ground, and the pipe is big enough to carry the water, and it just requires to put dirt on it. And if we could have done it a different way, we would have. My team is finishing up this project. It should be ready to go hopefully by this weekend. If you do walk the property, I think anybody else that did, you'll see that the sections of the ditch around the pipe are much lower than the pipe itself, and it's just the nature of doing that. And so I appreciate Ms. Vendegna. This is, you can react two different ways when something like this happens. I talk to communities all the time, and sometimes it doesn't go well, and other times it goes better. And she's approached me always with a smile. She's very much just honest about wanting to be able to have the privacy. And in this instance, the wall faces the right-of-way I maintain, and I've done a lot of work, and I'm going to maintain it. So that means I'm going to put crews down this. So I will have folks go down and maintain what's there. So that's going to be a little bit more folks on the ditch now. And I was out there again today. I thought it was worthwhile for me to go walk it one more time before coming in, and standing on a particular section of the ditch next to Ms. Vendegna's property is, I'm about this high above that ditch. I'm just standing on it. And I can see directly into her pool. And we did the best we could, but it's what needed to be done to do my side of the job, which is deliver irrigation water without flooding private property. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kasuba?
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jason. There's no one else signed up in favor of speaking for this. Is there anybody out there who's not signed up who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Yes, sir. You gotta do it all over again.
Well, hello again.
Full name and address, please.
Jim Sands, and I'm at 6913 Guadalupe Trail. And my dog, Duke, and I regularly walk that trail after we go through Westgate, actually. And my house is directly east of Carla's house. And so I looked at what was going on, and I did consult with Duke, just so you know, because he's important in all this. And we thought if we could raise right now, before I'd walk the ditch and I couldn't see over the wall really. So you could see the tops of trees. And now, as I sit on my kitchen table, I can see that people's waist is the height of the wall. And so it is kind of a difficult situation for her. And so I wanted to also say I'm in favor of her raising that up 4 blocks. From our point of view, it'd make no difference whatsoever. We're the ones that would see it, and Duke, of course. And so he and I just want to vote in favor of the wall, and it's no problem for us at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Kiko, is anyone online who wishes to speak in favor of the application?
There's none.
Kiko, is anyone online who wishes to speak in opposition to the application?
There's none.
Okay, so would the applicant like to respond to any of these comments? Good. Are there any further comments from the commission? Okay. Let's see, the floor is now closed for comments. Is there a motion to recommend approval of V23-01?
I'd like to make a motion to approve V2301, a retract by Cal Evident for a variance from 9.2 to H.2, requiring that no solid wall or fence located within the rear shall exceed 6 feet.
Commissioner Michelson recommended approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Holman, seconds. Roll call vote. Commissioner Gay, yes. Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Michelson.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith. Not here. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Holman.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. Let the record show the public hearing, item 4A, the request by Carla Bendigna for a variance from 9.2.7 H2 requiring that no solid wall or fence located within the rear side setback area shall exceed 6 feet in height is formally closed. Thank you. So next is item C, S23-03, a request by Nimjin Plaza LLC for a sketch plat review for a major subdivision in the VC zone in the 4th Street character area. Property is located at 6502 4th Street Northwest and is legally known as Olive Lot A, EXC East 165.84 feet of Blanche B. Dokins subdivision of Lot 2, Merritt. The property contains 0.5016 acres, more or less. Are there any commissioners who will recuse themselves from this item? Director Rubin, may we have the planning report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The request in front of you is a request for a sketch plat review for a major subdivision in the VC zone in the 4th Street character area. The proposed project is a new residential development on a vacant lot, formerly the location of a gas station. On August 10th, 2021, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a conditional use on the subject property for townhouses with a minimum of 24 dwelling units per gross acre under CU 2102. The sketch plat review for a site development plan for the property was held August 10th, 2021, and on March 8th, 2022, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to forward to the Board of Trustees a recommendation of approval for the preliminary site development plan. On September 14th, 2022, the Board of Trustees granted final approval of the residential site development plan. This application is for a major subdivision request to replat the property so that each dwelling unit is on its own lot with a form of shared ownership and interest in the common area. As the subdivision would create more than 2 lots, it is considered a major subdivision. The owner is requesting a sketch plat review for their concept for subdividing the property as the first step in the major subdivision plat process. Following this review are two meetings for the preliminary plat, one before the commission and one before the board, and a meeting for the final plat before the commission. Major subdivisions are required to go through the site development plan process, which was approved under SDP 2102. The subdivision must be filed with the Bernalillo County Clerk's Office prior to the issuance of any building permits. For the sketch plat review, there is no official action and there are no findings that are required at this meeting, only discussion and guidance from the commission members. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin. Any commissioners have questions for the director?
I do.
Commissioner Michelson?
How many stories will these structures be?
Off the top of my head, I believe it was 3. It's in the application, so it would be per the site development plan that was approved. And the subject request tonight is only to subdivide in order to meet the approved plan.
And then the small rectangle in the drawings that we have is the parking garage?
The small rectangle, there is no parking garage that I'm aware of on this site. The access is from the south from Willow, and this is going to be a drivable area with some parking and a drainage pond. And then the individual lots, there are 12 lots, and those will be where the townhomes are developed.
Okay, I wasn't sure on the thing that I saw what the smaller rectangle was on each plot. And each of these each of these houses will be individually owned?
Correct, I believe so.
I have no more questions, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay. Is the applicant present? I know he is. Would you like to come up and state your full name and address for the record?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Pacheco. My address is 5905 El Prado Northwest.
Chris, would you like to speak about your application?
I'd love to, but Director Rubin kind of took all my thunder. But no, this just to let the commission know, there's no changes within our subdivision plan from the approved site plan. We strive very, very hard to get a site plan that had 0 variances. And when we put the subdivision plan together, or the draft subdivision plan, we made sure there was no changes. To answer Commissioner Mickelson's question, if you look at the subdivision plan, those are actually house lots. They're small house lots, roughly 10,000 square feet each, or 1,000 square. They're small. I got to put 12 houses on a half acre. So we have to go up because we got to make sure that there's adequate living space. It is 3 stories. And then if you look at the site plan, the approved site plan, which is A111 in your packets, Commissioner Mickelson, yes, that little gray area is a 1-car garage. So each unit does have a 1-car garage. Other than that, I have nothing to add. I know there's going to be some comments about line of sight traffic. I'm happy to answer those questions, or whatever questions may arise after the public comment period.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pacheco. I don't have anybody signed up to speak in favor of this application. Is anybody out there that would like to? Okay. Then, Kiko, is it? I have a question. What's your name? Come up, tell us who you are.
Bob Kears, 7037 Guadalupe Trail. First of all, I'd like to say I'd like to see it developed, all right? But as I hear the numbers, there are going to be 36 residences on a half acre. What?
12.
12 residences? All right, with discussion over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kears.
I don't like the 3-story.
Well, should have been here 2 years ago when they voted it in. Sir, Kiko, do we have anybody online who would speak in opposition to this application?
There is nobody.
Okay. So, would the applicant like to respond to any of that comment that he heard from Bob Kears? Okay. Are there any further comments from the commission? We didn't have anybody signed up, and I asked if we had anybody online, and no.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I would like to hear about the clear sight triangle for our traffic.
Let me stop that for a second. I'm not sure if that's That was attached to the back of the package. It was a request from neighbors. But I'm not sure if that's not certainly something we can even discuss tonight. So what is your feeling, Commissioner, Director Rubin, on that?
Sure, Mr. Chair. I don't mind answering questions about it at all. It's not the subject of tonight's request, but it definitely plays into future approvals. So yes, I'm happy to address it. Basically, we have clear site triangle requirements in the village that all of the buildings on corners be pushed back a certain amount, as measured, I believe, from the middle of the street across the lot a little bit. Those are not the exact words, but they need to be compliant with that requirement so that you can see around the corner when you're turning. So that will be verified prior to the building permit, and I also will kind of troubleshoot that a little bit prior to the next stage in the application with the applicant. And as you can see on the subdivision, or on the site plan that shows from the air with the buildings and the parking, that corner building is pushed back somewhat from that corner for that purpose. And we would have to verify that the landscaping in that corner would make sure to not obstruct the views when turning. But all of that said, it has been brought to our attention, the staff, that Willow is pretty narrow. There are some folks who have talked to me about having trouble seeing around the corner a little bit, and worry about collisions, that type of thing. So that's on our radar as staff. There will be a transportation analysis occurring in the village to assess all of our facilities, and that is noted for that project team. So we hope to make sure that we can try to address any safety concerns.
Okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hellman, I just wanted to make sure we could even hear this just because it made it attached to the last of the agenda. I didn't quite understand how it was relevant, but do you have any other questions about it?
No, that was, I just wanted it on the record. Looking at the sketch that was out there, you can see that southernmost, I guess it'd be the southwestmost located condo appears to be, set back to accommodate that. And just wanted to make sure that we had it on our record, and it was obviously on all of our radar.
Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't, and Commissioner Holman, thank you for pointing that out. That unit, and if you look at A111, that unit is actually set back almost 25 feet from the road. We do have a couple trees there, and I did talk about that with Director Rubin. We're going to have to look at the landscaping plan, make sure we can still meet the requirements, but probably try and reduce the vegetation on that corner, so that it doesn't obstruct any views. And I know sometimes it can be. We've got a taco truck on there right now, and he's pretty busy, so that parking is. But we'll make sure in terms of putting our site plan together and subdivision plan and landscaping plan that we don't obstruct that view. To the north, there's nothing we can do about the south.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? My concern was not just the clear sight triangle, which is kind of a no-brainer, but there was a request to have a DOT. I had to look it up. I've never even heard of it, and I built a lot of highways things, but I couldn't understand how that became part of this package if it was not something that we were going to hear or approve. So
That was the Willow Neighborhood Association. I'm happy to yield the floor so that they can make their comments. It was an AASHTO site distance evaluation at the intersection of 4th and Willow. So I don't know the procedures, but I'm happy to yield my time so that she can make comments.
Was that something you would like to comment? Okay, great. All right, any other comments from the commission? So, but I'm not having you signed up to speak on this item, so if you want to come up, pardon? Oh, Nancy Robinson, sorry. S2303, I apologize. That was the only one highlighted. For some reason, I thought that was the one you weren't supposed to read. So, are we done with the, any commissioners' questions? And we do not have anybody else in favor of the applicant? And Kiko, do we not have anybody online that's in favor?
There is nobody online.
Okay, so then, would you like to come up and speak? Just tell us your full name and address.
My name is Nancy Robinson, and I live at 231 Willow Road, and representing the Merritt Acres Neighborhood Association, it's county. Willow Road is county from 2nd Street to the ditch, and then village, of course, from the ditch to 4th Street. I have also spoken to people in the 300 block, which is the village. And I've lived there for over 25 years. I'm no stranger to this intersection. It is a narrow, every time you pull up and depending upon how long your front end is, you're kind of like watching every move you make. And I will mention now that when Osuna was closed, we had a little bit more traffic going there. If you make the mistake at that intersection, when you're westbound, you're not completely over as far as you can possibly get. And there's someone trying to make a right-hand turn from 4th onto Willow, you get kind of a gridlock effect there. And people were going over the curbs and such. So I submitted the AASHTO, which not only takes into consideration the triangles, which is different from the regular traffic study, but it also has the consideration of the speed of travel on 4th Street. It also has a time element involved. It's not just 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. It's a day-long process. It's something that will give us a real good idea of just exactly what's going on at the intersection. And Chris and I saw his plan before it was approved. And the entrance, of course, is Willow Road. I didn't understand, to me it was a neighborhood development. I figured things would be worked out so it wouldn't be a safety issue, there wouldn't be parking problems, it wouldn't create gridlock on 4th, which is what happened several times because I got a lot of calls from being the association president and being a neighbor on Willow. And it got pretty crazy. People got real ugly backing up on 4th. So what I did was submitted the traffic study, figuring it was perfect time considering what was going on with this. We're concerned about the parking from this. I know, Chris, you mentioned tonight there's one parking spot. And it's my understanding before, aren't you going to have somebody else, another parking spot behind it?
There's 2 parking spots per unit, so there's one.
Oh, well, I'll wait. Anyway, we're concerned about what would happen on the parking on Willow. When you turn onto Willow from 4th Street, it's approximately 55 feet before you're going to have to make a left-hand turn into that area. And you're already concerned about the intersection. If anybody is blocking his entry, it doesn't leave that space for the driveway like so many drivers don't, then what's going to happen with this traffic all over the place? I really think it's important. And what I looked into was the village zoning rules. And if you look at 9.1.6, which is a general information and guidance, I'm looking at a neighborhood development which is now into a major subdivision. If you go down to C, it says considerations for subdivision platting in order to provide guidance to subdividers concerning acceptable proposed.
If you could finish your thought, your term is expiring.
Oh, I thought you yielded some time. I'm sorry. I thought, Chris, let me just put up here that it says right here that considerations for subdivision platting in order to provide guidance to subdividers concerning, when he turns in it. Okay, you read down below, it says on 2, graphic suitability. B, land with the following types of problems shall have subdivision approval withheld until it is demonstrated that such hazards have been or will be eliminated. And you go down to the 4th item, it says other geographical hazards to life, health, or property. We figured this comes right into that area. And then again, when Chris and I talked in the beginning, it was like nobody's going to park on Willow. And I thought, well, you know, if they have guidelines, if it's renters, if it's owned by one person, you know, and everybody follows the same rules, maybe we can get by with that. When you have a 3-story with a patio roof that's an individually owned, I'm not sure if that comes under affordable housing, but the point is they're going to have guests, they're going to have family, they're going to want to show off their patio view. Where are they supposed to park? It's another narrow down the street in front of homes. How does that work when, if you park in front of one house, you really can't put 2 people parked on either side and have people be able to pass?
Okay.
I hope I've covered everything. Sorry, thanks. Thanks for the time,
Okay.
Chris. If you have any questions for me.
Yet, do any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Robinson? Ms.
Thank you.
Robinson? None? Chris, would you like to respond to any of the comments that we just heard?
Well, real quick, let's talk about parking. The requirement is 1 parking place per unit. We actually have 2. If you go to A111, there's a garage for each unit, and then if you count the parking spaces there, we have another, so there's 2 parking spaces per unit. And I remember working with the architect and telling the architect, I don't want anybody that has, you know, just 1 car anymore. So there is 2 parking spaces per unit. It does self-park. This development plan does not, consider street parking. It's a self-park development plan on the property. Unfortunately, I can't look into the future and see, you know, where guests are going to park or that type. But we did make sure we included a parking lot so that we could park the development, we could self-park the development. In terms of blocking on entrance or exit, it's a 30-foot entrance, ingress and egress going into and out of the development. So that's plenty wide for 2 or 3 vehicles. It shouldn't lead to a situation where vehicles are backed up waiting to get in or out. 30 feet is actually three vehicles wide. And, you know, we're required to have a 25-foot fire lane. And we went 5 feet extra to make sure.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Pacheco, there's 12 units, but there's only 11 free spaces in your parking lot. Is this illustration correct or not?
No, that is correct. And we frankly ran out of room. There's, I can put some spaces here on these units to the southwest, but we ran out of room in terms of doing this.
So there's not quite 2 for each one? So, okay.
No. So that would be 1.9.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission for the applicant? Okay, just stay there for a minute, Chris, if you don't mind. I'm still a little bit concerned why we have this attached onto the end of the application. And I'm not trying to dissuade anybody. What I am a little concerned about is we have a resident who has submitted a request for a full-blown Department of Transportation survey on top of, and I don't know that that is actually a request that's going to be acknowledged from the village of Los Ranchos, so I'd kind of like to clear that up. Attaching it to the end of this agenda item is not the same as submitting a request for some type of survey, and I would hate to have anybody think that something was going to happen that might or might not be happening. So, again, could you just clear up? Maybe I'm making too much out of it, but I don't want this to become something that was just floated out there and it's not, no one's taken ownership of it. So.
Sure. Chairman, so anyone who has any kind of opinion in favor, against, would like to comment, is fully within their right to provide public comments for any of the public hearing items. While there may be another avenue to submit a formal request for this type of analysis, what I'm hearing is that there's a safety concern for traffic in that area. So, I think it's not an irrelevant request at all. But there may be also another way to address this external to this application. But it is, of course, related, so it's a relevant point of view to offer, in my opinion.
Okay, but it's not being addressed. Her request for this survey is not being addressed by the village formally.
So through this process, that cannot be addressed, but I do intend to follow up on this safety concern as much as I can.
Okay. That satisfies my concerns about it. So.
And just to add really quick, to remind everyone, there's no action being taken on this item tonight, but
It is, which is, again, why I don't want something to be hanging out there and have the perception that somehow it got acted on by the village or didn't get acted on by the village. So I'm clear on that. And I'll give you 3 more minutes to respond to that if you'd like. Yeah. Sure, come on up and do it again.
So, let's say it is a safety for property and people and the whole thing that this is submitted. I felt that it was valuable at this time for the commission to make their decisions and understand the concerns that are there. What about the actual zoning rules when it talks about approving the guidelines? And it says right here in the rules, are you saying that the 9.1.6 general information and guidance does not suit this situation, and that the fact that there may be other geographical hazards to life, health, and property, which would mean that these types of problems shall have the subdivision approval withheld until it is demonstrated that such hazards have been or will be eliminated? I contend there is that. And I think that you may see that with this study. We certainly see it living there. And are you saying that this doesn't bear any witness to the approval of subdivision?
I'm certainly not saying that, but we're not asked to vote on this.
Oh, I thought you were approving the subdivision tonight.
We're just reviewing.
No. Oh. Okay, well, please take that into consideration. And since I got a little more time, I would like to ask, on the VC zoning,
Ma'am,
you said I could talk about it.
Yeah, and you've retracted your question because you didn't understand the format. That's fine. Let me just say one more thing. You are on record that that's a safety concern of yours. That's true. Commissioner Holman has put that in the agenda. That's good. I will sit here and tell you the same thing. It is a concern. It's just not what we are addressing tonight at this meeting. So if we clear that up. And so if you have what you believed was a request for this AASHTO survey, and if it's not being addressed by someone in the village, you just need to know that. And whether you take that up tomorrow or not, that's your call.
Okay.
We are not addressing that concern tonight. We are only addressing the concerns of the major subdivision portion of this. So
Okay.
if you still have something you want to add to that,
You know,
I'll give
I
you
do.
a minute.
I do, as a matter of fact, taking away the ASHTO totally, and coming down to the parking that's involved and the people that, regarding the subdivision. Now, when I looked in zoning today, there's a VC zone, but there's two VC zones. There's the Village Center project, and there's the Village Center. They come with slightly different colors on your zoning map. And because Mr. Pacheco's comes within the Village Center project, did the Village Center, because the first opening to the Palindrome project is going to be just past, pretty sure, just past Chris's north side, did that project area leave any space that would be a parking consideration for his development, that would keep it within that zoning project, you know, the project as opposed to just the Village Center project? Is there something that might work in that development that would consider and take the heat off of that Willow Street area?
We can't answer that. You could request
Well,
the Village of Los Ranchos Planning and Zoning Director tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Okay.
Or take your request to the mayor or the village administrator. We can't answer that, and I don't want you to give you any
Oh, okay.
feelings that is within our power to approve or not approve.
Just throwing the ideas out there that might be something within zoning.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
It's good, you know, I
Cool.
appreciate that. And I don't mean to be pessimistic about your thing, but we have a narrow field that we're tasked with, and that's outside of our field, so. She
Yeah, we'll
has
go
a
into that at a
better,
different
yeah,
time.
and the other woman sitting up here, you can feel free to go
Gotcha.
hit them up 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
I certainly would.
thank you, because I do
Okay,
have some
well, thank
ideas on
you,
that as well.
Nancy, I appreciate that. And was there any other comments
I just
from-
want to say that I'm not coming here. You said we have a resident who has come forth with this and submitted that. I am not talking to you as a resident. I'm talking to you as the president of a county neighborhood association that has complete right up to the village. We're coming from that angle. We're not coming from, I don't like
Well,
this. I'm
okay,
here.
Semantics, I'm sorry, I
Thank you.
chose the wrong
It did-
word.
It did kind of feel bad. Okay?
I get
Thanks.
that you are representing your
Right.
neighborhood.
A larger group,
community.
definitely.
Any commissioners have any other questions for the applicant or for Nancy? Any last closing comments on Nancy Robinson, sorry? And there's no one online, either opposition or in favor of the application. No further comments from the commission, but hearing anything? So the floor is now closed for comments. There'll be no action taken on this item as a sketch plat application. A recommendation for approval or denial will be voted on the preliminary plat stage. Let the record show that the public hearing, item 4A, the request by Nimjim Plaza LLC for a sketch plat review for a major subdivision in the VC zone in the 4th Street character area is formally closed. Thanks, everybody, for attending. 4th Street character area is what I have on mine. Okay, thanks, everybody. So now we're gonna move on to old business. There is no old business. And we're going to move on to new business, adoption of resolution for 2023. Let's see, note that these resolutions are adopted every year and for standards that specify meeting procedures and compliance with the Open Meetings Act. 1, adoption of resolution 2023-1, Planning and Zoning Open Meetings Act. Is there any discussion from the commission?
No.
Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2023-1 Open Meetings Act.
I will move approval of Resolution 2023-1, Planning and Zoning Open Meetings Act.
I will second the motion, so Commissioner Holman moved to approve, Commissioner Gay seconded the motion. Vote must be called via roll call vote. Commissioner Gay, yes. Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Michelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, not here. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Holman.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. So adoption of Resolution 2023-2, Planning and Zoning Rules for the Transaction of Business. Is there any discussion from the commission? Okay. There's no discussion. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-2 Rules for the Transaction of Business?
I move to adopt Resolution 2023-2, Planning and Zoning, Rules for the Transaction of Business.
Okay. Do I have a second? I will second it. Commissioner Michelson moved to approve, and Commissioner Gay seconded the motion. Roll call vote. Commissioner Gay, yes. Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Michelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, not here. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Holman.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. So now we're on to item B, election of officers for 2023. A nomination for chair. It is now time to elect our officers for the year. Do I have a nomination for chair?
Yes, I have a nomination. I'd like to nominate J.T. Michelson for chair.
I'll second.
So we have a nomination and a second. And are there any other nominations? Okay, Commissioner Barrow moved to nominate. Commissioner Holman seconded the motion. So would the nominee like to say a few words?
I appreciate the nomination, and I look forward to being chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission in 2023, and hopefully we can review things brought to us and come up with approval or disapproval consistent with the rules and goals of the village. Thank you.
Any discussion from any members? We will now proceed to a vote. All in favor of J.T. Michelson, nominee number 1, vote in favor. I guess there are
Are you
all in favor of nominee number 1.
Aye.
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 All opposed? I guess we don't have to do that. That was, okay, there you go. Let's say, congratulations to our new chair. Nomination for vice chair. Do I have a nomination for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Mary Homan for vice chair.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Commissioner Barrow moved to nominate Commissioner Holman for vice chair. Commissioner J.T. Michelson seconded the motion. Would the nominee like to say a few words?
Well, with the approval of the commission, I look forward to serving as the vice chair. Really look forward to just continuing the fine work that this commission has done to uphold the rules and policies of the village, and of course, while taking into consideration the needs and desires of its residents.
Well said. Let's see, so all in favor of Commissioner Holman? There are Come on, people, vote.
Yes.
Good, good.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, so unanimous. All votes are in favor. So let's see, move on to congratulations to our new vice chair. Nomination for secretary. Do I have a nomination for secretary?
I'd like to nominate Connie Barrow as secretary.
I'll second.
that. Oh, you go ahead. Let's see, are there any other nominations? So Commissioner Christensen moved to nominate Commissioner Barrow for secretary, and Commissioner Gay seconded the motion. Would the nominee like to say a few words?
I will be happy to do my best with the help of the staff to be the secretary in 2023.
Okay, so congratulations to our new secretary. Congratulations to all three of you.
Aye.
Aye.
The planning department report. Director Rubin, may we have the planning department report, please?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, congratulations on all of the new elected positions. Basically, we've had a high application volume. We've just been processing daily applications. Recurring vendor permits are starting to come in for approval as those gear up for the summer. Our code enforcement officer is responding to inquiries as they arise and concerns, and a little follow-up for the Citizens Advisory Committee. The proposed C1 text amendments are scheduled for potential adoption tomorrow at the Board of Trustees meeting. In addition, the committee has responded to some of the concerns raised at the previous planning and zoning meeting by making sure that these are publicly posted meetings. So you can find them on our website. You can find them posted at Hartnett Park and outside the Village Hall. Any changes will be noted there to the schedule. Anyone can attend and provide input right at the end. And we look forward on behalf of the committee to providing some periodic updates and involving the commission in some of that. So thank you for that input. I think it's helped improve the process. And that'll be all for me. Thank you.
Okay, and I add that the commission did not ask nor provide, that was an informal discussion. There was some concerns about it, but the commission never, the Planning Zoning Commission never formally asked for or voted for those changes to be made, so. Any questions for Director Rubin? All right, what's left? Commissioners' informal discussion. Are there any reports or information that any of the commissioners would like to share? Okay, let's see. Adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
So we have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Michelson and a second by Commissioner Christensen. There's no discussion for a vote, so vote must be called. Roll call vote, Commissioner Gay, yes. Commissioner Christensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Michelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith not here. Commissioner Barrows?
Yes.
Commissioner Homan?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously, and so the meeting is formally closed at